It's great seeing my next guest back in action. Going to be taking on Gilbert Urbina, UFC Fight Night, May 20th. It is Orion Cosce joining me here on the program. Orion, how are you, man?
I'm doing good. Doing good. It's been a while.
Yes, it has. Why haven't we seen you in so long, for people who might be wondering?
Since my last fight with Blood Diamond, I had to focus a lot on my recovery. So it's one of those, after I got that vaccine to hopefully fight in Singapore, I kept on getting sick a little bit, and then the fight for Singapore got canceled. And then we ended up doing it in Dallas. But even then, every time I was like trying to cut weight, I would get sick, or I'd be sick once a week or twice a week and stuff like that. And then after that fight, just when I was trying to do that weight cut, trying to make that weight, it took a toll on my body. And so it shut down. And then I got to enjoy a couple of days of being in San Diego. And then there'd be a day where I was just like completely like just drained, or like 2 days in a row, I'd be drained of all energy and stuff like that. And then it got worse over time. So as I was like trying to push it hard again, just to work, recover, it just wasn't working out. And so fortunately enough, I ended up getting one of those, like the Myers cocktail IVs, where they just flush your body full of vitamins and minerals and stuff like that. But
Okay.
do the trick, because I've not been sick with like the cold or the flu or anything like that since. So I was hoping to fight in either January or February of this year, but obviously that got pushed back because of the fact that I just couldn't train. Like I like to train 2 or 3 times a day. And that's what I'm like actively doing right now, like intensively, 2-3 sessions every single day. Sometimes they're back-to-back sessions, but I'm making sure to get my recovery, whether it's like a protein shake or a recovery shake, even my amino acids, electrolytes, just whatever I need to do. But the main thing that sucked was during the holidays, I was just sick all the time. I'd hit one session and then the next day I'd be sick. If once I got better, I'd hit like 2 training sessions, I'd feel great, but then the next day I wake up and I'd have like a runny nose, a cough, and I'd be sick for 2 or 3 days. I'm like, nah, this ain't right. Something's going on. Then I tried saunas, over-the-counter medicine, stuff like that. Nothing was working. But once I got that IV, I've been feeling a lot better ever since. And fortunately enough, they're saying like, oh, hey, like, do you have any like heart issues? And I'm like, well, I got mitral prolapse, which I've always had. I just didn't get diagnosed with it until about 10 years ago when I was in my first year of college. And they're like, yeah, that's the reason you got insomnia and all that stuff. But they were saying that people who already had pre-existing like heart conditions, or even like just athletes who, they work with their heart a lot, they were more susceptible to like having something be the side effect from those vaccines versus just the regular everyday person. And they saw it with like a study where if you took like a high endurance athlete versus like the regular person, these athletes were the ones that were getting affected by the shot. So I was like, all right, cool. You know what? Like, it can't hurt to try out this Myers cocktail. So I did. It worked. I liked it. So I've been just telling everybody who's an athlete that I know, I was like, yo, maybe try it out. Like, if it helps you, awesome. If it doesn't, no harm, no foul. You're still going to, do an IV flush for your body in a healthy way.
That's crazy, man. Well, at least you figured it out. I mean, I could only imagine like the frustration of trying all these different things and it's not working. And then on top of that, I mean, let's kind of be honest here. Anything that's like even remotely critical of like the vaccine, people are like very weird about it. This like, and I'm sure it was, people are not like willing to talk about like, certain things about it. So was that challenging at all? Like, were they pretty like understanding when you're saying, hey, I'm having these side effects? Because I feel like a lot of people are kind of like, if you even question there's a side effect, it's like, no, it's not that. The vaccine works no matter what.
I told people straight up, prove to me that the vaccine works no matter what. Like, why was it that everyone was forced to take the vaccine if they wanted to do something? And then actually the CDC and the WHO were forced to release the reports that said, oh, the vaccines weren't actually as effective as we wanted them to. Listen, I'm not anti-vaccine, never have been anti-vaccine. Yeah. I'm anti a vaccine that was forced upon people worldwide in order to be allowed to do anything. You want to go job, we had doctors and people on the force and stuff like that who were pretty much saying like they were going to lose their pension, they're going to lose their jobs, and like pretty much like their livelihood. And they're the people like front line who were helping with everything, but because they were like, I don't think I want to take a shot that has no time under its studies. And then later on, there's a whole entire idea of, well, they've been studying on this for a couple of years. Okay, so if they've been studying on this for a couple of years, then all those people you're calling conspiracy theorists weren't conspiracy theorists.
Yeah,
I mean, actually being looked at. And how does it get released? So
Yeah.
But before we go down that wormhole,
Yeah.
uh, yeah, long story short, vaccines, they're not bad. People should get them. I'm not pushing for this vaccine, though, especially when the only ones that were allowed for a medical emergency release were the ones that were funded by Bill Gates. And then the other ones that actually did the full 3-phase trials were still not allowed to be used. Like, what is it? Oxygen was the stockholder for one of the ones that was being funded and tested over in India, like the entire time. And they're the only one of the only ones that did a full 3-phase trial when it came to the vaccine for, compared to like Pfizer, Moderna. But then you look at Pfizer and Moderna and look what the side effects were for those people in, like, not just America, but Canada, Finland, and Europe. Like Europe and Finland and like the Scandinavian countries and all those places, they were starting to ban like Moderna and Pfizer from being able to be used because of how many people were starting to die immediately after or within 10 days after of taking the vaccine. And again, vaccine, it doesn't matter how much money is poured into something. No amount of money could ever make up for, you need time and testing to make sure. We all know that for a vaccine, for anything, time. I could literally put like what, $1 million into a training camp for 1 month. Guess what? 8 months of training is going to be much more effective of a $0 salary and doing it myself than $1 million 1 month training camp.
Yeah. Yeah,
Those
exactly. And yeah,
time
and sorry, just to be clear as well, I got my vaccines, I got my booster. The thing that annoys me is people like can't even question like if there are issues with the vaccine. That's what I was getting at too, just so we don't get neither of us are getting labeled here. I just thought it's important to talk about because I feel like in our society it's like, no, you can't question anything about it. And it's like, yeah, but like there's issues with everything. We should be able to talk about this. Anyways, let's talk about your opponent here, Gilbert Urbina, 6-2 record. What how do you feel like you match up against him?
I feel great. I've faced people with the same reach as he has, and I've also faced fighters with the same height of him. So, and people, they can look back at my Phil Rowe fight and be like, "Oh, he's gonna have a hard time because of the reach and the height." And it's like, well, not necessarily. I just got caught in that fight. I got caught in the second round with a good strike, but then I also landed and I was catching him too. So that second round could have went either way with Phil Rowe. It's just that he, fortunately enough for him, he ended up getting the finish versus I wasn't able to get the finish. There's a couple of times where I rewatched that fight and my corners and my coaches, they'll tell me too, like, hey, you almost had him right here. You just had to keep pushing. I'm like, it's a little different when you're out there and you can't really feel your arm. But hey, you know what? Hats off to that guy because he got the finish. And that's the name of the game, right? It's a matter of inches. And sometimes a luck does play factor into it too. Like, what if I land that elbow? And the spinning back elbow that I try throwing every now and then, what if that lands? Like, maybe that knocks him out, maybe it doesn't. We never know though, because it never landed. We just know based off what happened. So I feel like with Gilbert though, he likes to push the pressure a little bit early, but then he bats off because he tends to get tired. He tends to overdo it a little bit, trying to get a little too excited to get the finish early on, which is fine. A lot of fighters, they do that nowadays, hoping to get an early finish because we're not paid to be there for 3 full rounds or 5 full rounds. We're paid to be there until the fight's over. So I feel like he'll come out either one of two ways. Either he's going to come out very, very strong and very heavy and try to push me to the cage and use his strikes. And he does a good job of also throwing elbows as he comes in just because he knows he has that reach. But I feel like with his kicks, they're very predictable. But that's about it. Other than that, I respect his boxing and then his wrestling as well. And I know that he has pretty good back game when it comes to his jiu-jitsu. He has long legs. So if he takes the back, I can be in a little trouble there. But fortunately enough, I work on that stuff all the time with people with long limbs and long arms and just making sure I'm working my way out of the bad positions.
Training camp, who've been some of the main guys helping you get ready for this one?
Right now, the majority of it's just been the guys at the UFC gym in Rockland. So, I have like Marty, he's tall, lengthy. We just brought in this guy, Alberto. He's also a bigger boy with a long reach. And both are great, like Muay Thai, kickboxing type people. Like, that's their specialty. So it forces me to work on my stand-up game a lot more, especially when I do like just pure kickboxing sparring. I'm always using it for my MMA. I'm not just ever going to work inside just for pure stand up. Like if I get a sweep, I'm sweeping and I'm pretending like, hey, I can follow through and get like side control here. But then I help them back up, or they'll try to sweep me and push me to the wall. They'll put me in a clinch. I'm like, all right, it's time for me to work out of this. Like I need to start working. And then Luke Brewer, he's been a huge help as well because he's super tall. I think he's 6'5", 6'6", but he has an 82-inch reach. So obviously a lot bigger than my opponent's gonna be. And yeah, we just got done doing some sparring yesterday, and I was supposed to train with him this morning, but then obviously I still, I was dealing with the leak all over the house and stuff like that. So got to make up for it later by doing a session right before tonight's sparring.
Who's going to be in your corner?
I got my brother Lewis. Fortunately, he was supposed to fight on the same day, and I prayed really, really hard. So for those of you out there who think prayer doesn't work, sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. But yeah, he was supposed to fight at San Francisco card on the same day, and so we had to like wait for it. And then like a week later, he's like, "Hey, like no, fight got canceled." I was like, "Thank you, God, thank you, you were there." So I get to have my brother in my corner, and then he'll fight on the A1 card, Uriah Faber's A1 card, Saturday over at the Hard Rock. So that'll be fun. He'll corner me, I'll corner him, and then I also have Ezra Regan, my striking coach. So I'll be able to have those two. And then unfortunately, I won't be able to have Brian Wilson in my corner around for this time just because he has an event that he's hosting up in Humboldt.
Gotcha. How's this fight playing out on May 20th? How do you see this one going down?
I feel like there's going to be a finish. I'm going to come out strong. He's going to come out strong. So, I mean, people should just be ready for either a knockout or a submission. I mean, either way, I'm going to go out there, do what I always do, try to put on a show, not only for myself, but all of you guys, the fans. And then I always want to come out with my, hand being raised, and hopefully it falls well, fight again immediately after. I said it in the past, and I feel very, very healthy. So if I'm blessed to be able to fight again in 2 weeks after this fight, so be it. And I'm not going to name drop anybody, just whoever they have available for me. And then maybe another 2 weeks after that. I've done 3 fights 5 weeks before, and I want to do it again. But just this time for the UFC, that'd be awesome. I plan on staying in the UFC for a long time, and I want to start working my way up those rankings. It's been too long. I got signed in 2020. I've only had 2 fights since. So I think it's time that my body stays healthy enough and my heart stays healthy enough to where I can be one of the more active fighters in the UFC.
May 20th, UFC Fight Night. If there's anyone you want to thank before we get out of here, any sponsors, any social media you want to mention, I'll give you the last word.
Yeah, I just want to thank all, my coaches, the guys that are going to be cornering me, my brother and Ezra. I want to thank everyone who's been helping me out with this fight camp. And then definitely just want to give a shout out to my wife. She helps me with if I need a little bit of food here and there, she'll cook it or she'll bring it for me just because she knows I have to watch what I do. And then just all the family and friends that are supporting me. And then even though they're not sponsoring right now, all my previous sponsors, I want to thank you guys like Luis Lindo. Thank you a lot, brother, for all you've done in the past. And then just everyone else, whoever helped support this journey. Yeah, thank you guys. And then I want to say thank you to any future sponsors, just because it's going to be kind of hard to do any more interviews after tomorrow. I think I don't have any more until, Fight week. So.